But now you're going to have to convince a Republican why the Democrats have a right to secret hearings,
No,
barring
I
their
don't.
representatives from hearing about it.
Why do I
You
need
will.
to convince
You will.
Why?
Because in the Senate, where the Republicans have the majority, they're going to block this and not convict Trump. And then
They-
Trump's going to walk away from this, and it's going to make the Democrats look weak and ineffective and throw them off base for 2020, getting into the political argument.
All right, let's get into the political argument.
Yeah.
We know that over 50% now of Americans in polls
According
say
to
Donald Trump. Excuse me?
According to which poll? Right. So there's like 13, and they
Fox,
teeter between
Fox News poll.
Fox
the
News
Real
poll
Clear
oversampled Democrats.
Okay. Well, you don't like the polls, but you show me the polls. I mean, it's very.
It's the aggregate is around 43%.
That's not true. Polling on impeachment, Morning Consult, Fox News, which you think is
So here's what I typically do when I use polls. Because of the problems of 2016, because Nate Silver and Rasmussen are fighting online, because Zogby relaunched, you got to check the methodology on these.
So polls don't mean anything. Fine.
A little bit.
Well, all right.
It's admittedly tough.
Whatever you want to say, Tim. The polls are screwy. There's people oversampling in the polls.
So here's the core issue, right? We're not talking about what I want. We're talking about what's happening in this country. Fox News, for instance, is a bad example because according to the New York Post, 48% of the people in that survey were Democrats when 36% of the country are Democrats, giving an oversampling, which then brings the number down to around 43, which is in line with the aggregate for most other polls.
And you don't think they adjust for that?
They did not adjust for that. They stated as much.
What about the Morning Consult one?
So these are all individual polls. I tend to prefer aggregates, but I'll entertain any individual poll for sure.
Let's look it up. Let's see what the aggregate.
Yeah, do it to it.
Where would you like to go? You tell me what is a legit source.
Let's see if does Real Clear Politics have an aggregate on this one?
Oh my God.
So it's the average is 52%.
Okay, so it's actually 2 points higher than I thought it was.
Right. My only concern is.
Okay, wait a second, Tim. Let me go now. All right, because we just did your little thing here where we unskewed the polls and we found that the majority of Americans do want him impeached.
Right.
Now, that means that, and once this information actually gets more widely disseminated, I think the Democrats are going to do public hearings. I think they're going to release all these things. It behooves them to do so. If they don't, I think they're making a mistake because they're going to want more than 52%, even if they can get it. And when it goes to the Senate, if Mitch McConnell holds a vote, I know he said he has, but the people who don't want him to have a vote are Susan Collins and our Cory Gardner and our Sally McMaster. These are people, and Jody Ernst, who are very nervous about having to take a vote because they don't want to vote to protect Donald Trump. In fact, there's a lot of Republicans in the House who I think don't want to vote to protect Donald Trump. And so from a political standpoint, everything we know about 2018 was that negative partisanship drove record numbers of Democrats to vote in an off-year election. Mm-hmm. And negative partisanship is also going to drive them to vote in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
And so the idea that you can nationalize the race in Senate races and in congressional races by having every Democrat running against a Republican say, did you vote to protect Donald Trump, who has, as you know, I think you'll acknowledge, very bad favorability ratings. And
for Trump?
Yes.
According to the New York Times, his favorability is up since the time he was elected.
He is still underwater in favorability ratings.
But higher than when he got elected. Great.
He is still underwater in favorability ratings. So you're going to have the opportunity for every Senate candidate and every House candidate say you voted to protect Donald Trump when 52% of the aggregate polling at this point, and we're only 2 weeks into this.
Wow.
Right? It's gone up significantly. Even amongst Republicans has it gone up.
Trump's favorability went down by about 4 points on January 4th, but till today, this timing is way off. What is this? Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Continue. RCP gave me the wrong information.
Anyways, so I think there's a lot of reason to believe that this is going to be very helpful for people running against Republican incumbents. Because
so the support of Trump or the opposition too.
Susan Collins is going to be in a very difficult position. Joni Ernst is going to be in a very difficult position. That's why she came out and said that there should be, full disclosure by the White House, because she's nervous, and she has reason to be nervous. And I think so. That's the argument for its political efficacy. And the idea that the country could get more polarized is absurd, Tim. The country is extremely polarized. It is not coming together, and that's just the way it is. It's not happening.
So did you see the NRCC polls they released a week or so ago?
The NRCC?
The National Republican Campaign Committee.
Have I seen the Republican polls? No, I have not.
So they're alleging quite the opposite, that in their target districts and battleground districts, 2/3 of people believe the Democrats are, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but obsessed with Trump and impeachment and not focusing on core issues.
You're telling me that you're unskewing Fox News polls, but you're telling me that we should have a conversation based upon the internal polling of the Republican apparatus to get themselves reelected?
Yes, because the Fox News poll was specifically called out in the New York Times and Fox News.
That the RCP average was 52%.
I know, and I agreed. It was a good source.
You know what?
So I'm not asking you about the NRCC because I'm saying they're true. I'm asking you about it to get your opinion on what you think about their polling.
I think that I would not go by what the DCCC says is going to happen in these districts or the Republicans. I wouldn't go by either one of those.
Okay.
I think that their job is to put the best spin on this possible.
So what can we really go on that Americans are willing to campaign more so on impeachment? So actually, let me rephrase this in a better way.
What do you mean by that, campaign more so on impeachment?
So NRCC's claim was that
the Republican Party is claiming that
in these target districts, independent voters prefer talking about core issues like the economy, immigration, and healthcare, but that 2/3 feel the Democrats are too focused on impeachment and Donald Trump himself. You can say that's bunk and irrelevant. Okay, totally fine. I'm asking, what can we go on to figure out what they will be voting for specifically? And I bring this up, the question I guess is,
you and I can, I've already told you, we know that negative and partisanship drove out turnout in 2018 when Donald Trump was even on the ballot, and that Republicans got clobbered in a record-breaking off-year election, and unprecedented.
So we're expecting massive turnout for 2020,
exactly.
Which, according to Moody's, if it's historical, Trump loses by a few electoral votes. So here's what I'm saying, right? We have Trump raising $15 million in a day, specifically off of impeachment, campaigning on it. He's I guess they're calling it, I forgot what they're calling it, but it's been reported by numerous outlets that Trump has seen a boon among his base, similar to the Kavanaugh effect. In 2018, moderates did really well.
You mean the thing that happened a month before the Democrats had an unprecedented victory against the Republicans?
So specifically, the Kavanaugh effect refers to state level and how that'll affect the presidency, not suburban districts.
No, but when you say the Kavanaugh effect, you're talking about the Kavanaugh hearings, which took place.
The senators who lost and the gains made in the Senate for Republicans, yes.
Those were all red states.
The Kavanaugh effect isn't referring to the losses, right? So the Kavanaugh effect isn't referring to Congress. It was specifically that at the state level, which more accurately reflects presidential elections, the Kavanaugh effect resulted in...
What do you mean by the state level?
Senators versus Congress districts.
Those were all red states.
Where the Democrat, the red state Democrats got kicked out for not supporting Kavanaugh.
Those were all states that Donald Trump won in. They're deeply red states.
Right. So then I guess the argument is that it was inevitable Trump was going to win those states over in 2018. Was
it inevitable that those senators were going to lose? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then, so why would we assume that anything's going to change if the track is staying,
Well,
solid except for the scandals?
I think red states. I think it's going to be. Yeah, I think he's going to win red states, but in purple states, and
Did you see the Moody's analytics?
And anywhere where there is an R5 district or less, I think that that person's going to be in deep trouble. You're talking about states where the partisan index is something like in double digits.
Did you see Moody's recent analytics release on the projections for 2020?
No.
They're saying with an average voter turnout, Trump handedly wins. With low voter turnout, Trump sweeps nearly 400 electoral votes. And only with a historical high will the Democrats secure 279 votes. So Moody's is saying Trump is going to cruise through.
And if that's the case, if Moody's is right, then the key is you need to motivate the Democratic base. Now, when the Democrats opened up this session of Congress, they passed 60 pieces of legislation that were a wish list for Democratic voters. We barely heard about this.
Absolutely.
They want Democrats. We barely heard about it. The news barely reported on it. Mitch McConnell, of course, wouldn't allow a single one of those to take a vote. I think there's something like 200 bills that he's preventing from having a vote.
Yep.
And so, if we take the thing that you have presented from Moody's as gospel, which is that we need to have an unprecedented turnout by Democrats to win, then it only makes sense that you should deliver for the Democrats who want to come out. And they are all saying, and in massive numbers, impeach Donald Trump. So I think you've strengthened my argument, at least in terms of the politics. Now,
but not moderates.
What moderates?
Moderate voters that make up 60+% of the country. Or is it 40? Sorry, 45
I don't
or so.
what you're looking at, but the fact of the matter is that the research. I just interviewed a woman named Rebecca Bitkofer. She was the only person to predict the Democratic wave in 2018. She got it down to almost the exact number of seats they were going to pick up 4 to 5 months out. And she says that paradigm that you're talking about, where there are somehow these swing voters. Presumably that's what you mean by moderate.
Pew Research, 38% are independent.
Well, that's right. She says those independents either lean Democrat or lean Republican. And the question isn't whether or not they're going to be persuaded to switch the way that they lean. The question is, are they going to come out and vote? And she says the same thing that motivates people who are solidly Democrat motivates those who lean Democrat. Same with the Republicans. The same things that motivate definite Republicans also motivate lean Republicans. And so the idea is that these, what you call independents or moderates, I think moderate is probably a misnomer, but these independents, these less likely people to vote, although we know if they vote, we can predict how they'll vote. The question is, will they come out? And negative partisanship drives those people. And that's why that also reinforces my theory that impeachment is going to help. Because we know that these, if you look at, the independents, go back to that Real Clear Politics poll, you will see that at least over the past 2 or 3 weeks, the appetite for impeachment has gone up by over 20% with those folks too. And so this is what's going to drive people out to vote.